What refinements would you like? Do you want it to be longer, more inspiring, or have a different tone? Let me know how you'd like it adjusted. The world isn't divided into those who succeed and those who fail. It's divided into those who see and those who don't. Most people go through life accepting what's in front of them. They follow the rules, walk the same roads, think inside the same lines. But visionaries? They see something different. They see what others overlook. They recognize patterns, connect dots that seem unrelated, and imagine what could exist beyond the obvious. Think about the biggest breakthroughs in history, whether in technology, art, business, or science. They didn't come from following a manual. They didn't come from playing it safe. They came from someone looking at a problem, a product, a system, something that the world had already decided was good enough, and asking, what if this could be better? What if we're looking at it all wrong? Because here's the truth, opportunities are never obvious. They don't show up neatly packaged with a label that says, this is the next big thing. No, they show up disguised as problems, as inconveniences, as things people have learned to live with. The difference between those who build the future and those who get left behind, the ability to recognize that within every problem lies the seed of an opportunity. Look around. Every great innovation started as a frustration. People once accepted that candles were the only way to light a room until someone imagined a bulb. People once believed physical stores were the only way to shop until someone redefined convenience. And people once thought communication meant being in the same room until someone saw a way to connect the world. It's easy to say, that's just how things are. It's harder to ask why, and even harder to ask why not. But that's where change happens. That's where the real breakthroughs begin. Most people assume the world is fixed, that the systems we rely on, the industries we trust, the way things work, it's all set in stone. But nothing is permanent. Everything is waiting for someone bold enough to rethink it. The biggest mistake you can make is believing that just because something exists a certain way today, it must exist that way forever. To see what others don't, you have to think differently. You have to be willing to question what everyone else accepts. You have to embrace discomfort, because new ideas are uncomfortable. They challenge the status quo. They make people nervous. But if you see something that others don't, and you believe in it, don't wait for permission. The future doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who create. This keeps it open-ended, powerful, and thought-provoking. Do you want more expansion or a shift in tone? Most people mistake complexity for intelligence. They think that the more complicated something is, the more valuable it must be. But the truth? Complexity is easy. Simplicity, that's where real genius lives. Look at the world around you. It's filled with things that are bloated, confusing, over-engineered, products packed with features no one uses, systems designed to be inefficient, messages so convoluted that they lose all meaning. This happens because most people believe that adding more makes something better. But in reality, it's the opposite. Simplicity isn't about removing depth, it's about removing distractions. It's about stripping away the unnecessary until all that's left is the purest, most essential form of an idea. The kind of simplicity that makes people stop and say, of course, why wasn't it always this way? That's the kind of simplicity that changes everything. Think about the most iconic innovations in history, the most elegant designs, the most powerful ideas. They don't succeed because they are the most complicated. They succeed because they are the simplest solutions to problems that seemed impossible. The greatest minds don't just build, they refine. They obsess over every curve, every word, every experience, eliminating anything that doesn't serve a purpose. They understand that every extra step, every extra button, every extra piece of information is friction, and friction kills momentum. People crave simplicity, even if they don't realize it. They don't want to read a 100-page manual to use a device. They don't want to navigate through endless menus just to get to what matters. They don't want more noise. They want clarity. They want something intuitive, something effortless, something that just works. But here's the thing. Simplicity is hard. It requires discipline. It requires saying no to good ideas in pursuit of a great one. It requires the courage to remove, to refine, to challenge the urge to add more. Most people won't do this. They'll keep piling on, thinking they're adding value when they're actually burying it. But those who understand the power of simplicity, They build things that last. Because in a world overflowing with complexity, the ones who master simplicity are the ones who stand out. Failure, a word that makes most people uncomfortable, a word that schools teach us to avoid, a word that society has labeled as something to fear, something to be ashamed of, something to run from. But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every great idea, every breakthrough, every game-changing innovation was built on a foundation of failures. Nobody gets it right the first time, or the second, or sometimes even the 100th. The difference between those who make an impact and those who don't, the ones who make it keep going. Most people are so afraid of failing that they never even try. They spend their lives avoiding risk, choosing the safe path, staying inside their comfort zones because they don't want to deal with setbacks, criticism, or the possibility of looking foolish. But that's the real failure, never starting. Failure isn't what stops you, it's the excuse people use to stop themselves. The reality? Every failure is a lesson. Every wrong turn teaches you what doesn't work. Every rejection forces you to refine your approach. Every misstep gives you something invaluable: experience. And experience is what separates those who dream from those who do. If you look at the people who have changed the world, their stories are filled with failure, over and over again. But they didn't stop. They didn't let failure define them. Instead, they learned, they adapted, they pushed forward. The problem isn't failure itself. The problem is how we see it. We treat it like an ending, when in reality, it's just a stepping stone to something greater, a checkpoint, not a finish line. When you fail, and you will, the question isn't, did I fail? The real question is, what did I learn? And more importantly, what's next? Because success doesn't come from never failing. It comes from failing better each time. So stop fearing failure. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop worrying about what people will say if you stumble, because failure isn't the thing that holds you back. It's the thing that pushes you forward, if you let it. Innovation doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't come from following a checklist or sticking to a formula. It's not something you can manufacture with focus groups or spreadsheets. Innovation, the kind that disrupts industries, that reshapes the way we live, that leaves a lasting impact, comes from one place: passion. Passion is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. It's the difference between someone who simply does a job and someone who creates, and between someone who follows instructions and someone who invents, between someone who accepts the world as it is and someone who dares to change it. Without passion, work is just work. It's a routine, it's a checklist, it's a way to pay the bills. But passion? Passion is an unstoppable force. It's what keeps you up at night, thinking about new possibilities. It's what makes you wake up before the sun because you're too excited to wait another second to build, to create, to bring your vision to life. The world doesn't need more people who just go through the motions. It needs people who care deeply, people who are obsessed with what they do, people who refuse to accept good enough and push for something greater. Look at the greatest innovations in history. The products, the ideas, the movements that have changed everything, they weren't created by people who were chasing money or status or job security. They were created by people who couldn't imagine doing anything else, by people so passionate about their ideas that they ignored the doubters, the setbacks, the failures, and just kept going. Because passion doesn't just fuel innovation, it fuels resilience. When you're passionate about something, you don't quit at the first sign of trouble. You don't walk away when things get hard. You don't settle for mediocrity. Passion makes you relentless. It makes you push through the obstacles, through the rejections, through the long nights and the impossible odds, because you believe in what you're doing. And that belief, that's where real innovation happens. Because innovation isn't just about creating something new. It's about solving real problems. It's about making life better. And the only way to do that, the only way to build something that truly matters, is to care more than anyone else. Most people will tell you to play it safe, to follow the rules, to do what's practical, what's predictable, what's been done before. But passion doesn't follow rules. Passion doesn't ask for permission. Passion looks at the world and says, this can be better. I will make it better. And that's where everything begins. Most people don't notice the details. They don't think about the way a button clicks when pressed, the way a product feels in their hands, the way a sentence flows in a speech, or the way a design guides the eye effortlessly to what matters. They see the big picture, the surface, the obvious. And that's why most people create things that are just okay. But the ones who truly change the world, the ones who create products, ideas, and experiences that last, they obsess over the details. It's easy to do things the way they've always been done. It's easy to accept good enough and move on. But that's where mediocrity lives. The difference between something that works and something that's unforgettable is in the smallest, seemingly insignificant details, the ones most people overlook, but the best refuse to ignore. Look at anything truly great, a masterpiece in art, an iconic piece of technology, an unforgettable experience, and you'll see a level of care that goes far beyond what's necessary. Every color, every curve, every pixel, every word, it all matters. Because details aren't just details. They are the difference between something functional and something exceptional. Think about the most beloved products in the world, the ones people don't just use but love, the ones that feel effortless, seamless, perfect. That feeling isn't an accident. It's the result of countless hours spent refining, tweaking, adjusting, going over something again and again until every single piece fits together so perfectly that it feels inevitable. Most people will never see the work that goes into these details. They won't know how many prototypes were discarded, how many late nights were spent adjusting something by a fraction of a millimeter, how many decisions were made to remove something rather than add. They'll just know that something about it feels right. And that's the goal, because when you truly care about the details, people might not be able to explain why they love what you've created, but they'll feel it, they'll trust it, they'll connect with it, because deep down we all recognize quality. We all appreciate something that has been crafted, refined, obsessed over. The world is full of things that are rushed, things that are built to meet a deadline rather than to make an impact. It's full of things designed for efficiency rather than excellence. And that's why the ones who obsess over the details, the ones who refuse to cut corners, who push just a little further, who care just a little more, are the ones who create work that stands the test of time. Because details don't just add to the experience, they define it. The greatest obstacle to innovation isn't a lack of resources, intelligence, or technology. It's the limits we impose on ourselves. The invisible boundaries we accept without question. The rules we assume can't be broken. The way things have always been done. Most people live inside these boundaries. They see the walls and stop there. They accept the systems, the traditions, the expectations handed down to them. And as a result, they never push beyond what already exists. But visionaries, the ones who truly change the world, don't accept limits. They don't ask, is this possible? They ask, how do we make it happen? They don't look at a problem and see a dead end. They see an opportunity to break through. Because here's the truth. Every limit is just a belief waiting to be challenged. Think about history's biggest breakthroughs, the moments when everything changed. They weren't the result of following conventional wisdom. They were the result of someone daring to think differently. Daring to believe that what seemed impossible was actually inevitable. There was a time when people believed humans could never fly. Then someone built an airplane. There was a time when the idea of talking to someone on the other side of the world instantly was science fiction. Now it's taken for granted. There was a time when space was an unreachable frontier. Now we send machines and people beyond our atmosphere. Every major leap forward started with a simple act, questioning the limits. Why do we assume things must be this way? Who says this can't be done? What if the way we see the world isn't the way it has to be? The people who change industries, the ones who rewrite the rules, the ones who shape the future, are not necessarily the smartest, the wealthiest, or the most experienced. They are simply the ones who refuse to let limits define them. But thinking beyond limits doesn't mean dreaming without action. It means executing on ideas that others dismiss. It means ignoring the voices that say, that's not how it's done, and finding a way to do it anyway. It means questioning everything, not for the sake of rebellion, but for the sake of progress. Because limits don't exist to be accepted, they exist to be redefined.